Says, having trouble connecting. Please check your internet. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Oh, now it says we're live.
Yeah, I saw the live.
We're here.
For like 50 seconds.
Well, welcome, everybody. Having a little technical glitch to start the show there, but we are live. We are here. Welcome to Syracuse basketball postgame. Brent Axe, Mike Curtis from syracuse.com, our friends at Krause Health, present the program to you, and we are here talking about a Syracuse basketball win. It was certainly not the prettiest thing in the world for Syracuse, but Mike, it's that time of year, right? It's not necessarily survive and advance, but you kind of want to get in that mode, just win, baby. This would be a game for Syracuse that, with a win, that which they got, as we'll discuss here, is kind of take care of business, check it off the list, move on. A loss would have really hurt Syracuse. This doesn't help their tournament resume at all. Boston College has had a real rough go of it this year, but they did win. They did take care of business. The final score, 75-67 at the Carrier Dome this afternoon. Mike, you were in the BC press conference that didn't last very long, by the way, so I want to get some thoughts from you on that, albeit as brief as it was. But it was kind of a weird day at the Dome. It just goes to show you that when you assume things in sports, the gods will kind of slap you in the face a little bit and say you can't do that, even against a really bad Boston College team. Syracuse had to grind one out, including I think they had 12 free throws down the stretch because, hey, free throws matter.
Yeah, this was night and day compared to the game where Syracuse blew BC out probably about a month ago. I just came out of the BC press conference, and it was about 6 minutes. Jim Christian really didn't have much to say, but he pretty much said that his guys were a bit fatigued down the stretch. They weren't able to capitalize on a few missed opportunities. Syracuse turned the ball over a couple times, but all he had was 6 or 7 scholarship players, 6 or 7 bodies that was able to suit up tonight, and just that full court press kind of wore them out on offense down the stretch.
And that's notable, Mike, because BC was able to hang in this game and make it competitive with only 6 players, as you noted. Winston Tabbs and James Karnick were 2 names that we thought could have come back from their COVID-related pause today, but didn't make it in. Tabbs is their second leading scorer. Karnick had a great game against Syracuse first time around. It gets lost in the shuffle in a 40-point loss. The first one was a 101-63 win for Syracuse. Syracuse hit a single-game record 16 three-pointers in that game. And, Mike, in this game, it looked like early Syracuse was going to be back on track with that. They had 4 three-pointers very early in the game. But as we dive into the numbers here, they only end up with 5 on the day, 5 of 11 from three-point range. They hit the brakes on that, and Jim Boeheim noted that when Boston College switched up their defense a little bit, they got out on the shooters better, but Syracuse had a lot of opportunities in the paint. I mean, they throttled BC in the paint. Final note there was 38-20, but credit to Boston College in that, we know that rebounding number. Syracuse is now, I believe it's 11-0 on the season. When they win the rebounding battle, they did that today, 37-33. But in the second half, Boston College won the rebounding battle 19-18. So it was weird, Mike. There were times when Syracuse was absolutely dominating in the paint, getting to the free throw line. But there were times when Boston College was kissing the glass a little bit and taking advantage of some Syracuse mistakes in scoring.
Yeah, it looked like right out the gate that this game was going to go exactly how the last game between these two teams went. Syracuse got off to a hot start. Allen Griffin hit the first three-pointer of the game at the top of the key. And then after that, you saw something we haven't seen in a while. You saw Buddy Boeheim, you saw Joe Girard pretty much get on the same page. Both of them knocked down triples, and then each of them fed the other for wide-open layups at the rim. And they went on a personal 10-0 run of their own there. But they slowed down Joe Girard specifically in the second half. But yeah, it was really interesting to see them get that quick spurt out.
Yeah, we'll get to the numbers here. Girard, 16 points, all of that in the first half. All 5 scorers for Syracuse, all 5 starters, I should say, in double figures in this game. But let's dive into a few numbers here. The Orange shot, 48% overall to Boston College's 36%. But again, in the second half, that's even. Boston College, 36%, Syracuse, 39%. So overall in this game, we mentioned Syracuse finishes just 5 of 11 from three-point range after hitting 4 early in the game. BC 9 of 31 from three-point range. Free throws matter, and Syracuse hit 18 of 23 in this game, including 12 in a row down the stretch. That's 78%. BC was 12 of 13 from the three-point or from the free throw line. Pardon me. Syracuse won the rebounding battle, as we noted, 37-33. Assists, Syracuse assisted on 12 baskets to 14 for BC. Another thing that didn't help Syracuse's cause today, 17 turnovers on the day. Now, Boston College converted those turnovers into just 11 points, whereas Syracuse converted 14 points off of 15 Boston College turnovers. We mentioned points in the paint. Syracuse pretty dominant there, 38-20. If you look at things from an individual standpoint, we mentioned all 5 starters and doubles today. Alan Griffin with 14 points, 8 rebounds, following up his huge 22-point day against NC State. He had 2 assists, just 3 turnovers on the day, 2 blocks, 2 steals. Mike, he would have been better, but got into a little bit of a foul trouble situation in this game, picked up 4 fouls, and missed a little bit of the second half. So he plays just 31 minutes in this game. He typically plays about 40, but Griffin's kind of the closest thing Syracuse has to being that guy right now that kind of takes over the game and takes charge, even though Joe Girard was that guy in the first half.
Yeah, his versatility on offense and defense is pretty special, and it gives the Orange that extra layer that it doesn't have without him. I personally think that he's their best offensive player when he has it going. He's able to shoot from deep. He's able to kind of give you that turnaround mid-range jumper. Something I like to see him do a little bit more often is drive to the paint to finish, but he's definitely the total package. One thing I did want to point out here is we saw a couple different lineups in the first half that we haven't seen before. There was a point in time where Buddy, Kadari, Boeheim, Griffin, and Dolezaj were on the court at the same time.
Not to mention John Bull and Jock got some run at the end of the first half. Robert Braswell gets in there.
Yeah.
Jim Boeheim wasn't happy that John Bull kind of engaged in a little extracurricular activity there with Boston College, drew a technical foul. But Jim mentioned they've been kind of switching up things a little bit at practice. He's been earning time at practice. Jesse Edwards made a cameo appearance in this game. And what also might be notable there, Mike, is in a game where Boeheim went as deep as he has on his bench, albeit a couple of those guys only played, John Bull 2 minutes, Jesse 1 minute, Braswell 6 minutes. We did not see Woody Newton in this game at all. So you kind of have to wonder what's going on there, because we have not seen him since Jim noted that he wanted to get him in there a little bit more in recent games. But just to throw a couple more numbers out there, I like the way Quincy Guerrier played today. He really had to grind inside, 12 points, 9 rebounds, 4 block shots on the day. It was 6 of 9 from the free throw line. We mentioned Girard, who was 2 of 4 from three-point range, 7 of 13 overall. He has 16 points on the day for Syracuse. He also had 6 rebounds. So to see the guards getting after it off some of those BC misses on the day, also had 3 steals on the day. Marek Dolezaj with 13 points, just 4 rebounds on the day for him. But, we did see a couple of things from Marek, Mike. He got to the free throw line down the stretch. He was 7 of 8, and the window was open for him today to drive to the hoop a little bit more. He was a little more aggressive on the offensive end, and I like to see that out of him.
Yeah, when Marek's being aggressive, that's usually a good sign for Syracuse. And he has it. He has the ability to drive to the hole. He has the ability to put the ball on the floor. He can make that 15-footer. He hasn't taken a lot of three-pointers this year, but he's able to do that as well. So when Marek's performing well, that's usually a good sign for the Orange.
Buddy Boeheim with 13 points on the day, just 1 of 3 from three-point range. As mentioned, BC adjusted their defense and shut off the three-point line for Syracuse, but Buddy got inside a little bit more, hit a couple of key shots in the second half as well. Kadari Richmond, not his best day, 6 points, 3 rebounds, just a steal. I mean, we're used to this guy getting like 3 or 4 steals a game now, but in 15 minutes of play, Jim Boeheim noted after the game, Mike, that, Kadari made some bad rotations on defense. He didn't like what he saw out there. This time, Joe Girard got the call down the stretch when usually it's Kadari. Remember, Kadari had the dental procedure after the NC State game, had the impacted tooth. I don't think that affected him today. And look, I'm a big Kadari Richmond fan. We've made that pretty clear, Mike. We've said he should start and get more minutes and all that. I still believe it. But I think we've also built him up to be almost invincible at this point. He's still a freshman. He's still going to make some mistakes. And I agree with Jim Boeheim. He had a bad defensive game. His rotations weren't there. He wasn't quite as sharp as usual. It's going to happen. He's going to have some bad games here or there. He's been so darn good on defense recently in other areas that I think that chatter that was justified. I wrote a column about it. We've discussed it a lot here, but you also have to recognize when he has a bad day, and today for the most part he did.
Yeah, I think what typically happens is us writers and fans alike, we typically live in a prisoner of the moment type of situation. So we only pay attention to what we see now instead of paying attention to what we see in front of us instead of taking it out and putting context. Like you said, he's still a freshman. And one thing that the broadcast mentioned early, that Girard is still a sophomore, and we're holding him to the expectation of like a senior level player who's been here before. He's still getting adjusted to that point guard role after playing so much off guard in high school.
Let's hop in the comments and hear from everybody out there. Always appreciate you stopping by. Always love to hear where you're watching from, by the way. I see it in here.
Hey,
people are getting in the habit. They're telling us where they're watching from, Mike. I like that.
Yeah, real quick, before you get started, I want to say hi to my cousin. She commented earlier on in the show and said she loves me, so I just want to say I love her too.
Hey, Kawana.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Hopefully she's still in here.
Bazil's watching from, how about this, from Baghdad. By golly, what time is it over there? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you checking in. Donna put it this way: take care of business. And Mike, look, that's what you got to do sometimes. I know that Syracuse was a 14-point favorite and BC had the bad record and everything, and people will come in with a certain level of expectation, but sometimes you do just have to grind it out and take care of business, and that's what Syracuse did in this game today. Matt said, when's the last time we said not a good idea to put SU on the line? Yeah, this is weird, Mike. Look, I've watched Syracuse basketball my whole life, covered Syracuse basketball in an official capacity the last 20 years. This is Jim Boeheim's best free throw shooting team. It's weird how good this team is shooting free throws, because for the years, it's just never been the case. Jim was asked about it after the game, Matt, and it was basically, look, we've got a lot of good shooters. But you know what the key is there? Marek Dolzaj has made a huge leap at the free throw line. He's adjusted his shot. So this was a guy who was in like the mid-60s a couple of years ago. He's now in the mid-80s as a free throw shooter, and that just goes to show you form, technique, working on the fundamentals, and it pays off. But when you have good shooters like Joe Girard and Buddy Boeheim and Alan Griffin, your free throw shooting is going to be better. Yeah,
you said it right there. I was just about to mention Girard almost led the nation in free throw shooting last year as a freshman. So when you take him, you take Buddy Boeheim, who are all good. When you think about it, they're all good perimeter shooters. So you would think they would be able to shoot well at the line. And then you got Quincy Guerrier. He went 6 of 9 today. And that's not bad at all, 66%.
He's good enough at the line, and he's got to be better at the line because he's going to get to the free throw line probably anywhere from 8 to 12 times a game going down the stretch if, officials call the game the way they should be. There's a couple weird calls in this game. I don't necessarily think it was a bad day for the officials, kind of a weird day. We mentioned that little scuffle that happened earlier and some calls that kind of made me scratch my head. But by and large, Quincy's going to get to that line. Matt said, Brent and Mike, seems like the schedule could set up for a nice run to end the season. Have to play well and play good defense, but make a good run and they get into the tournament. Now, the trick there is they've got to get some quad 1 wins because they do not have a single quadrant 1 win at this point. They have a lot of quadrant 2 wins, but not a quad 1 win. The next matchup for Syracuse is Louisville on Wednesday night. Louisville has not played since February 1st. They're going to be out of a COVID pause. They're one of the top defensive teams in the league. They're one of the top rebounding teams in the league. We'll see where we're at on Wednesday. That might be a quad 1 game, but either way, Mike, that is a critical game for Syracuse to get down the stretch here. So Matt mentioned making a good run. Having a good record is important, 4-2, 5-1 down the stretch, whatever it is. But Louisville is going to be a key game to stand out on the resume. You need standout quality wins.
Yeah, that's the big one to look out for. But they had to get to that game. They couldn't look past BC. Just looking forward to Louisville, and I think they did a good job of taking care of business today. This team is used to being on the bubble right around this time of the year. They're one of the first 4 out, according to Joe Lunardi. And a loss today would have less likely meant it would have ruined their chances at the NCAA tournament.
It would have submarined it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we would have been having to write a lot of things not good about this team.
Well, and the other thing is, Mike, we don't know what the ACC tournament's going to look like. Now, they have to play in it. ACC bylaws say you've got to show up and play, basically, if you have a team that can show up and play. But who the heck knows what that thing's going to look like and how many teams will be there. And, boy, we learned that last year, right? Syracuse has the best game of the season against North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then they shut the whole thing down the next day. So you just never know what's going to happen there. From Houston, Blake mentions, by the way, your Syracuse weather is coming down here. Boy, it's like 10 degrees out my window right now. Is it 10 degrees in Houston? Come on now. It gets a little cold down in Houston, and they get all worried about it.
I looked at my weather app last night. It was 3 degrees.
Yes.
And I went to go turn the heat on.
1, 2, 3 degrees. But appreciate you watching from Houston, Blake. And we just mentioned it there. Look, Louisville's a great rebounding team. They're a great defensive team, and they're coming off a big pause. Will that be a well-rested team, or will that be a rusty team is going to be the big question. But we saw today, even Boston College, which didn't stand out on the rebounding front, really attack Syracuse on the glass, particularly in the second half. So what we've got to see in that game, Mike, is the Tuesday night NC State kind of game where Syracuse is playing at a good pace, balancing out scoring, hitting the boards, better on the three-point line, and, of course, better defensively than they were today.
Yeah, this next stretch of games is going to be so crucial to where Syracuse ends up come tournament time, which is where they want to be. I know we just talked about the ACC tournament, but Syracuse is a program that's prided itself on making the NCAA tournament and clicking at the very right time towards the end of the season.
The lights on the bubble once again, right?
Yeah,
this is the 5th time in 6 years, if my math is correct there, that here we sit in the middle of February. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way, tomorrow for all you lovers out there. And here they are in the bubble. Joe Lunardi, just poor Joe. Syracuse, always just right there. Joe never gets it right with Syracuse. And I could say that. I know Joe. He's a friend of mine. I have him on my radio show a lot. He rolls with the punches on that. Somebody asked him the other day on Twitter about Syracuse, and he says, no matter what I say, I'm going to be wrong. So let's see what happens. But as it stands now, they're in the next 4 out category. At the point, just win, baby, and take it out of that. Put your destiny in your own hands, because there's Louisville. What's Duke going to be? I mean, is that going to be a quad 2 game? I would never think that would be a quad 2 game, but obviously Duke is really struggling this year by their standards.
Beating Duke would be good just to say you beat Duke.
Yes.
I think that's pretty much the win there.
There's still a lot of bias there. It still looks good on paper when they put that little resume on the screen and Duke is in the win category.
Yeah.
But not the typical Dukies this year. And boy, what a shame. I know everybody out there is just real sad about that one, right? So really, you get a few days here to get ready for that Louisville game. We mentioned some of the things Syracuse has to do better heading into that matchup here. As everybody tells us what the temperature is where they're watching today, as a cold snap goes through the country. Dale in Genesee, Pennsylvania says, can you imagine what will happen if all our shooters get hot like they did at Boston College? And that's the thing. Dale brings up an interesting point, Mike, because this was a team that was built to be a three-point shooting team, but we haven't really seen that other than that BC game. Like, even when they hit 9 3-pointers against NC State the other night, it was 2 guys hitting threes, Buddy and Allen, right? Joe hit a couple early, found other ways to score today, but other than that BC game, we haven't seen that white-hot shooting night from Syracuse throughout the season.
Yeah, it's been really weird. They haven't shot the ball extremely well since earlier this season. And like you said, this is a team comprised of three-point shooters. But I think it all boils down to Joe and Buddy. Those are your main guys you want shooting the three-pointer, and they've been really inconsistent. Some days they're up. They look like the best shooters in the country.
Right.
Some days they're down, and they look like they shouldn't be out there shooting three-pointers.
So all told, friends, it was a take care of business day for the Orange. They improved to 12-6 on the season, 6-5 in ACC play. They'll be at it again Wednesday night, as mentioned, against Louisville. Mike and I will be here live on Facebook, on YouTube as well. If you do miss this, we put the YouTube video up on social media. It's archived on our Syracuse Orange Sports Facebook page and in my recap as well. Boy, Mike's got his own fan club in here today. I love this. Sylvia's checking in. I gotta tell my family to come in here and watch this thing. I can't. My mother still hasn't figured out the internet. One of these days,
gotta love family, man.
She'll figure it out. But thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks for everybody hanging with us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay warm out there, wherever you are. And Mike and I will be back at it Wednesday night after the Orange take on Louisville.